The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a sound like thunder rolling across mountains. Captain Lideho walked through first, his military uniform crisp and clean, but looking simple compared to the golden armor and flowing robes of the alien beings around him. Admiral Park Sojin followed close behind, her eyes scanning the enormous room that could easily hold 10 football stadiums. Ambassador Kim Tae-sung came last, carrying a small briefcase that contained Earth's final peace proposal. The chamber itself was a marvel of alien engineering. Crystal walls stretched up so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Floating platforms held different alien species, each one stranger than the last. Some looked like giant insects with too many legs, others appeared to be made of living metal that shifted and changed color as they moved. The air smelled of ozone and something sweet that made human noses tingle. At the far end of the chamber sat Empress Velterra on a throne carved from a single massive diamond. Her body was humanoid, but larger than any human, with 6 arms that moved independently of each other. Her skin was deep purple and covered in intricate tattoos that seemed to move on their own. Her eyes were completely black without any white showing, and when she looked at the 3 humans, it felt like staring into empty space. The 3 humans walked down the long pathway toward the throne. Each step echoed loudly in the vast chamber, despite the hundreds of alien beings watching from their floating platforms. Some of the aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. Others clicked or buzzed or made noises that human ears could not properly understand. All of them were clearly amused by the sight of these tiny humans walking toward their mighty Empress. Captain Lideho had been in combat before. He had faced pirates in the asteroid belt and survived 3 different space battles. But walking toward this alien throne felt more terrifying than anything he had ever experienced. The Empress was so large that even sitting down she towered over the humans. Her 6 arms moved constantly, adjusting her robes or gesturing to servants or simply flexing her fingers in ways that showed off her strength. When they finally reached the base of the throne, Ambassador Kim Tae-sung stepped forward and bowed deeply in the traditional human gesture of respect. He opened his briefcase and removed a crystal data storage device that contained their peace proposal. The device was small and simple-looking compared to the advanced technology surrounding them, but it represented months of careful work by Earth's best diplomats and scientists. Your Majesty, Kim Tae-sung began in his most respectful voice. Humanity comes before you today seeking peaceful coexistence. We offer trade agreements, cultural exchange, and mutual defense pacts that would benefit both our species. We have prepared detailed proposals for but Empress Velterra raised one of her 6 hands and Kim Tae-sung fell silent. The gesture was clearly a command that brooked no argument. The Empress leaned forward on her throne, and her massive form seemed to block out the light from above when she spoke. Her voice was deep and rich, like music played through speakers the size of buildings, but her words carried the cold bite of winter wind. You pathetic little creatures, the Empress said, and her voice carried easily through the enormous chamber. Dare to speak of equality. The word equality seemed to amuse her greatly because she began to laugh. Her laughter was not pleasant. It sounded like breaking glass mixed with the roar of avalanches falling down mountainsides. The sound echoed off the crystal walls and seemed to go on forever. The other aliens in the chamber joined in the laughter. The insect like Vextar clicked their mandibles in rhythm. The crystalline Mordan chimed like broken bells. The gaseous Thalpoi made sounds like wind howling through empty caves. All of them found the idea of human equality absolutely hilarious. Their laughter filled the vast space and made the 3 humans feel smaller than insects, your entire species. Velterra continued when the laughter finally died. Down could not defeat a single one of our war fleets. She gestured with 2 of her arms toward floating displays that showed images of massive alien warships. Each ship was easily 10 times larger than the biggest vessel Earth had ever built. Their hulls gleamed with advanced armor and bristled with weapons that could destroy entire cities with single shots. The Empress was not finished with her mockery. You have no technology worth mentioning, she said, and now her voice carried a tone of genuine disgust. Your weapons are primitive toys that could not even scratch our shields. Your fastest ships move like crawling insects compared to our vessels that can cross entire star systems in hours. Your soldiers carry projectile weapons like ancient barbarians while our warriors wield the power of stars themselves, Admiral Park. Sojin felt her jaw clench as she listened to the Empress insult everything humanity had worked so hard to build. She thought about the brave pilots who had died fighting. Pirates with nothing but courage and determination. She remembered the engineers who had worked for years to build Earth's first real starships using salvaged alien technology and pure human ingenuity. But she kept her face calm and showed no emotion. The Empress stood up from her throne, and her full height was revealed. She was at least 3 meters tall, and when she spread all 6 arms, she seemed to fill the entire space above the humans. Her robes flowed around her like liquid shadow, and the tattoos on her skin pulsed with their own inner light. She was a being of immense power, and she wanted the humans to feel how small and helpless they were in comparison. We witnessed your pathetic attempts at warfare during the border skirmishes 3 years ago, Valterra said as she began to pace back and forth in front of her throne. Each step she took shook the crystal floor beneath the humans' feet. Your nuclear weapons were jokes that our shields absorbed without notice. Your kinetic projectiles bounced off our armor like raindrops hitting stone. Your electronic warfare attempts were so primitive our children use more advanced technology in their toys. The border skirmishes had been Earth's first real contact with advanced alien military technology. Human forces had tried to protect a small mining colony from alien raiders, but had been completely outmatched. Every human tactic had failed. Every weapon had proven useless. It had been a humiliating defeat that had forced Earth to retreat from several star systems and abandon colonies that had taken decades to establish. But now, Valterra continued, her voice rising with each word, you dare to come before me and speak of peace. She laughed again, and this time the sound was even more terrifying because it carried genuine malice. You will be our slaves within the year, little humans. Your colonies will mine our minerals, and your people will serve our needs in whatever way we see fit. Your leaders will bow before me and beg for the privilege of serving the Dominion Empire. The other aliens in the chamber cheered and applauded at these words. Some of them shouted suggestions for how humans could best serve their new masters. Others made bets about how long human resistance would last. Many of them had conquered other species before, and they saw humans as just another primitive race that would soon join the ranks of the enslaved ambassador. Kim Tae-sung tried once more to speak. Your Majesty, surely we can find some arrangement that silenced. The Empress roared, and her voice was so loud that several of the smaller aliens had to cover their hearing organs. You will return to your little planet and tell your leaders that they have one galactic standard month to surrender completely. If they refuse, I will personally lead a fleet to Earth and turn your homeworld into a ball of molten rock. Your species will serve, or your species will die. Those are your only choices. Guards appeared from hidden alcoves around the chamber. They were tall reptilian beings with energy weapons that hummed with deadly power. They surrounded the 3 humans and began escorting them toward the exit. The aliens in the chamber continued laughing and making crude jokes about humanity as the humans were led away like prisoners. As they walked back down the long pathway, Captain Lee Dae-ho felt the weight of failure pressing down on his shoulders. Earth had sent its best diplomats and its most experienced military officers, but none of it had mattered. The aliens saw humans as nothing more than potential slaves or target practice. They had no interest in peace or cooperation or any of the ideals that Earth held dear. But as they reached the massive doors that led out of the chamber, Captain Lee Dae-ho quietly lifted his wrist communicator to his mouth and spoke in a voice so low that only his companions could hear. Phoenix Protocol is authorized, he said. Send the message to Earth Command. And the alien guards paid no attention to this seemingly defeated human speaking into his primitive communication device. They had no way of knowing that those simple words had just activated the most classified military program in human history. They could not imagine that this single transmission would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Empress Valterra continued laughing on her throne, completely unaware that she had just made the biggest mistake of her very long life. Deep inside the moon, Admiral Cho Min-soo sat in his command chair, staring at the message that had just arrived from the Galactic Council. The words "Phoenix Protocol is authorized" glowed on his screen in red letters that seemed to pulse with their own inner fire. He had hoped this day would never come, but Earth had been preparing for it since the first alien ship had appeared in human space 50 years. A Goluna base was humanity's greatest secret, built inside the moon itself over 5 decades. Of careful construction, millions of tons of rock had been moved in complete secrecy, creating a facility so large it could house entire cities. The base stretched for hundreds of kilometers through natural caves and artificial tunnels carved by the most advanced mining equipment human science could produce. Most of Earth did not even know it existed. Admiral Cho stood up from his chair and walked to the massive observation window that looked out over the primary construction bay. The sight before him would have shocked every alien in the galaxy if they could have seen it. 200 enormous ships floated in perfect rows, each one 3 kilometers long and bristling with technology that had never been seen before in galactic space. These were the Supercarriers of Project Phantom. Fleet Humanity's answer to alien superiority. Our Yang Haijin approached the Admiral carrying a datapad filled with technical specifications. She was a small woman who looked like she might teach mathematics at a university, but she was actually the most brilliant military engineer humanity had ever produced. Her mind had conceived weapons and defensive systems that made traditional alien technology look like stone tools compared to laser rifles. Admiral, the construction phase is complete, she said in her quiet voice that always made people lean closer to hear her properly. All 200 units are operational and ready for immediate deployment. The quantum drives are performing at 120% of projected efficiency, and our adaptive armor systems have exceeded every simulation we could design. The quantum drives were Dr. Yang's greatest achievement. They allowed human ships to move through space in ways that alien science said should be impossible. Instead of pushing against space, the drives actually folded space around the ships, making them appear to teleport from one location to another. The aliens had energy shields and thick armor, but they had never faced an enemy that could simply appear behind them without warning. But the drives were only one part of humanity's secret advantage. The real breakthrough was something the aliens had never even considered. The collective intelligence network allowed every human ship to share information instantly across any distance. Each ship could see what every other ship was seeing and coordinate attacks with perfect timing. No alien species had ever developed this kind of technology because they all fought as individuals seeking personal glory. Captain Yoon Ji-ho walked through the corridors of her flagship, Seoul's Thunder, inspecting the crew quarters and weapon systems. Her ship was the largest vessel humanity had ever built, but it was designed for function rather than intimidation. The aliens built ships to look frightening and impressive. The humans built ships to win battles. The difference in philosophy was about to become very important. The captain stopped at the main briefing room where her senior officers were studying tactical displays that showed the layout of Dominion space. Every alien ship movement had been tracked and recorded for months. Human spy networks had infiltrated alien communication systems and mapped their defensive positions. The aliens thought they were dealing with primitive humans who barely understood space travel. They had no idea their every move was being watched and analyzed. Remember, Captain Yoon told her assembled officers, the aliens have never faced an enemy like us. They fight as individuals, each ship trying to prove its own superiority. They compete with each other even during battles because their culture values personal achievement over group success. This makes them predictable and vulnerable to coordinated attacks. The briefing room fell silent as the officers studied the battle plans. Each supercarrier would command 500 smaller fighter craft, but that was not their real power. The fighters were equipped with manufacturing systems that could build new ships during combat using raw materials collected from destroyed enemy vessels. The human fleet could actually grow stronger during battle, while alien fleets could only get weaker commander. Park Jin-woo stood up and pointed to a section of the tactical display showing Dominion patrol routes. Our intelligence indicates they move in standard formations that have not changed in over 1,000 years. Their commanders are chosen for political loyalty rather than military skill, and their battle tactics focus on intimidation rather than effectiveness. We can use their predictability against them. The human officers spent hours reviewing every detail of the coming operation. They studied alien psychology and military doctrine, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited. They analyzed the technical specifications of enemy ships and identified the most vulnerable systems. Each human crew member knew exactly what they were supposed to do and how their actions would coordinate with every other ship in the fleet in another section of Luna Base. Thousands of technicians were loading supplies and ammunition into the supercarriers. The human ships carried enough food and equipment to operate independently for years without any support from Earth. They also carried advanced manufacturing systems that could produce new weapons and spare parts using raw materials found in space. This made them completely self-sufficient in ways that alien fleets had never achieved. The weapons themselves were unlike anything in galactic military history. Instead of focusing on raw power like alien energy cannons, the human weapons were designed to adapt to any situation: kinetic projectiles for targets with energy shields, plasma beams for heavily armored vessels, exotic matter weapons that could ignore traditional defenses completely. The aliens would never know what was coming next. Dr. Yang walked through the weapon testing facilities where prototype systems were being evaluated by combat engineers. The adaptive armor that covered every human ship could change its properties instantly, becoming reflective against energy weapons or dense against kinetic attacks. The aliens had spent thousands of years perfecting ways to defeat traditional armor and shields. They had no experience fighting an enemy whose defenses could transform during battle. The most important advantage was something the aliens could never have imagined: humanity had learned to fight as a single organism rather than a collection of individual ships. Every human vessel was connected to every other human vessel through quantum communication networks that operated faster than light. The aliens still used radio signals and laser communications that could be intercepted or jammed. Captain Lee Sang-ho stood in the Tactical Coordination Center aboard his ship, Inchin's Thunder, watching displays that showed the positions of all 200 supercarriers and their escort vessels. The fleet had moved to the edge of the solar system using stealth technology that made them completely invisible to alien sensors. The aliens thought stealth meant hiding heat signatures or reducing electromagnetic emissions. The humans had learned to bend space itself around their ships. The stealth systems were based on the same principles as the quantum drives. Instead of trying to hide from alien sensors, the human ships existed in a slightly different layer of space-time. They were there but not there, visible to human instruments but completely undetectable by any known alien technology. This gave them the ability to observe alien movements and plan attacks without any risk of discovery. Admiral Cho received regular updates from scout ships that had infiltrated Dominion space weeks earlier. These small vessels had mapped every major military installation and identified the locations of important alien leaders. The aliens were so confident in their superiority that they had not bothered to increase security or change their routines. They continued to operate exactly as they had for centuries, completely unaware that human forces were watching their every move. The psychological warfare had already begun. Long before the first shot was fired, human intelligence operatives had been spreading rumors and disinformation throughout alien space. Supply convoys were disappearing without explanation. Communication networks were experiencing mysterious failures. Border patrol fleets were vanishing without sending distress signals. The aliens were starting to feel nervous, but they had no idea what was causing these problems. Commander Oh Min-young reviewed the fighter pilot training records as her squadron prepared for deployment. Every human pilot had trained for years in advanced simulators that could perfectly reproduce alien ship capabilities and tactics. They had practiced coordinated attacks and defensive maneuvers until they could execute complex battle plans without conscious thought. The alien pilots relied on individual skill and personal courage. The human pilots fought as parts of a larger machine. The manufacturing facilities inside Luna Base continued working around the clock, producing ammunition and spare parts for the coming battle. Human ships could repair battle damage and replace destroyed fighters without returning to base. The aliens had never faced an enemy that could regenerate losses during combat. Their entire military philosophy was based on the idea that fleets grew weaker during battles, not stronger. As the final preparations were completed, Admiral Cho stood once again at the observation window. Empress Velterra was enjoying her morning meal of imported delicacies, from 12 different star systems. When the first emergency alert reached her private chambers, the sound was a deep thrumming note that meant immediate danger to the Empire. She had not heard that sound in over 300 years. The last time it had played was during the Crystalline Wars, when entire sectors had been consumed by battle. The message that appeared on her personal communication screen made her 6 arms freeze in mid-motion. Fleet Commander Zul Keth, reporting from Sector 7 Patrol Group Delta, has lost all contact with command. 12 heavy cruisers, including the flagship Iron Dominion, have vanished without sending distress signals or battle reports. Last transmission spoke of shadows moving between stars before signal terminated. Valterra felt something cold settle in her stomach. She had ruled the Dominion Empire for over 8 centuries and had never encountered an enemy that could destroy 12 heavy cruisers without leaving any evidence of battle. The Iron Dominion alone carried enough firepower to reduce a small planet to molten rock. Its shields could withstand the combined assault of an entire enemy fleet, yet somehow it had simply disappeared within the next hour. 17 more emergency reports reached the Empress from different sectors of her vast empire. Supply convoys carrying essential materials were vanishing between star systems. Communication relay stations that had operated reliably for thousands of years were going offline without explanation. Entire star systems were reporting strange energy readings in empty space. Before losing contact with the Central Command Network, the Empress summoned her War Council to the Tactical Command Center deep within her flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The room was filled with holographic displays showing the positions of every Dominion military unit across dozens of star systems. Red warning symbols were appearing faster than the tactical computers could process them. Each symbol represented ships or installations that had stopped responding to communication attempts. General Kexdal, her most experienced military commander, studied the tactical displays with growing alarm. He was a veteran of dozens of major campaigns and had never seen anything like the pattern emerging before them. "Your Majesty," he said in his gravelly voice, "these attacks are too coordinated to be random. Our intelligence suggests a massive military operation, but our sensors detect nothing." The general gestured toward a 3-dimensional map that showed the locations of all the disappearances. "They follow logical patterns designed to cripple our communication networks and isolate our major fleet concentrations. Someone has been studying our defensive positions for months, possibly years. Whatever enemy we face, they understand our military structure better than most of our own officers." Empress Valterra felt fear creeping into her mind. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion Empire had conquered dozens of species and controlled hundreds of star systems through superior technology and overwhelming military force. No enemy had ever managed to coordinate attacks across such vast distances or strike with such precision that their own forces left no trace. Admiral Dexnar spoke up from his position at the sensor control station. "Your Majesty, our long-range detection systems are picking up unusual gravitational anomalies throughout Dominion space. The patterns suggest massive objects moving at velocities that should be impossible according to known physics. Whatever is attacking us is using technology we do not understand." The gravitational anomalies were actually signatures left by human quantum drives as they folded space around the supercarriers. But alien science had never developed space folding technology, so they had no way to interpret the sensor readings correctly. To them it looked like empty space was somehow moving and shifting in ways that violated their understanding of physics. Commander Park Jin-woo was leading the Human Advance Reconnaissance Force through the outer regions of Dominion space. His ship, the Guangzhou S Pride, was invisible to alien sensors as it collected intelligence on enemy fleet movements and defensive installations. The information being gathered would have shocked the aliens if they had known how completely their security had been compromised. Every Dominion military communication was being intercepted and decoded by human intelligence systems. Every ship movement was being tracked and recorded. Every defensive position was being mapped and analyzed. The aliens had grown complacent over centuries of easy victories. They had never bothered to develop proper communication security because they had never faced an enemy capable of advanced electronic warfare. Park Jin-woo transmitted his latest report back to Admiral Cho through encrypted quantum Channel's enemy fleet movements are completely predictable following standard patrol routes that have not changed in decades. Their command structure is centralized and vulnerable to coordinated strikes. If we eliminate key communication nodes, their ability to coordinate responses will collapse entirely. The human strategy was based on a simple but devastating concept. The aliens had built their empire on individual ship superiority and centralized command authority. They had never learned to fight as coordinated units, because their culture emphasized personal achievement over group cooperation. This made them vulnerable to attacks that targeted their command and control systems. As more Dominion ships and stations vanished, the aliens began to panic. Fleet commanders started abandoning their assigned patrol routes and clustering around major population centers. Supply officers refused to send convoys through sectors where other ships had disappeared. Communication officers sent increasingly frantic messages requesting immediate reinforcement. The psychological impact was exactly what humanity had planned. The Dominion Empire had maintained control through fear and overwhelming displays of power. Their subjects obeyed because they believed Dominion military force was invincible. Now that reputation was crumbling as their most powerful warships simply vanished without explanation. Captain Lee Sang-ho monitored alien communication networks from his position aboard Incheon's Thunder, listening to the growing panic in Dominion military channels. Fleet commanders were reporting sightings of unknown vessels that appeared on sensors for brief moments before disappearing again. Others spoke of finding empty space where their ships should have been, with no debris or evidence of battle. The human stealth technology was so advanced that even when alien sensors briefly detected something, the readings made no sense to their tactical computers. The aliens kept seeing gravitational shadows and energy signatures that appeared and vanished randomly. They had no experience with space-folding technology, so they could not understand what they were observing. One by one, the major communication hubs that connected different sectors of the Dominion Empire went offline. Each hub that was destroyed or captured made it harder for the aliens to coordinate their military response. Human forces were systematically isolating different parts of the Empire so they could be defeated separately rather than allowing them to combine their strength. Admiral Yexthor, commanding the Dominion Third Fleet, received orders to investigate the disappearance of an entire supply convoy in the Kepler sector. His fleet consisted of 40 heavy cruisers and 200 escort vessels, enough firepower to conquer most civilized worlds. But when they arrived at the convoy's last known position, they found only empty space. The tactical officer reported no debris, no energy signatures, no indication that ships had ever been present in the area. It was as if the convoy had simply ceased to exist. The admiral ordered a full sensor sweep of the surrounding space, but the results showed nothing except normal background radiation and cosmic dust. What Admiral Yexthor did not know was that his fleet was being observed by 3 human reconnaissance ships that had been waiting in stealth mode for over a week. The human commanders were recording every detail of alien sensor capabilities and tactical procedures. This information would be used to plan more effective attacks against similar forces. Captain Kim Soo-young, commanding the Supercarrier Business Fury, received new orders from Fleet Command to begin Phase 2 of the operation. Her ship and its escort vessels moved into position near a major Dominion military installation that controlled shipping lanes through 7 different star systems. The installation was protected by orbital defense platforms and a permanent garrison of over 100 warships. The human plan was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of attacking the installation directly, they would eliminate its ability to communicate with other Dominion forces. Once the base was isolated, it would be forced to operate independently without knowledge of what was happening in the rest of the Empire. This would make it much easier to defeat when the time came for direct confrontation. Commander Oh Min-young led her fighter squadrons in carefully coordinated strikes against Dominion communication relays scattered throughout the sector. Each attack lasted only minutes and left no evidence except the sudden silence where active communication networks had been operating. The aliens found themselves increasingly blind and deaf as their information networks were systematically destroyed. The fighters used adaptive camouflage technology that made them appear to be asteroids or space debris to alien sensors, they could approach their targets completely undetected and strike with exotic matter weapons that simply made their targets disappear. The aliens had no defense against weapons that operated by removing matter. The space around Velterra Prime had become the most heavily defended location in galactic history. Over 3,000 alien warships from dozens of different species floated in perfect defensive formations around the Dominion throne world. Each ship represented the pinnacle of alien military technology accumulated over thousands of years of conquest and domination. Massive vessels created their own artificial daylight as energy shields formed glowing barriers that could be seen from the planet's surface. Weapon systems the size of city buildings tracked empty space, searching for enemies that remained completely invisible. Sensor arrays powerful enough to detect a single asteroid across entire star systems swept through space. Looking for any sign of the mysterious attackers, Empress Velterra stood on the command bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Dominion, a vessel so enormous it contained entire cities within its armored hull. The ship was 15 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire solar systems. Its shields could withstand direct hits from supernovas, and its weapons could crack planets in half with single shots. The Empress had called for reinforcements from every allied species, and the response had been overwhelming. The Reptilian Vextar had sent their most powerful dreadnoughts, the Crystalline. Mordan had contributed ships that could manipulate matter at the molecular level. The gaseous Thelpoi had provided vessels that could phase through solid objects, making them nearly impossible to hit. Let these cowardly humans come, Velterra declared to her assembled admirals as she gestured toward the massive fleet surrounding her. Throne world, we have enough combined firepower here to sterilize every planet in their pathetic solar system. Their primitive stealth technology cannot hide them from our advanced sensor networks forever. When they finally show themselves, we will crush them like insects. Admiral Korth, Vex, commanding the Vextar contingent, nodded his massive reptilian head in agreement. Your Majesty, our weapons have been upgraded with the latest targeting systems designed specifically to counter stealth technology. Even if these humans can bend light around their ships, they cannot hide from gravitational sensors or quantum field detectors. The alien commanders had spent weeks preparing for this battle. They had studied every known stealth technology in galactic history and developed countermeasures. For each one, their scientists had worked around the clock to create new sensor systems that could detect the smallest disturbances in space-time. They were confident that no enemy could remain hidden from their combined technological might. But Admiral Park So-jin watched the alien formations through her advanced sensor systems aboard the human flagship Sol S. Thunder and felt only satisfaction at what she saw. They have made this much easier for us, she told her staff officers. Concentrated formations are extremely vulnerable to coordinated attacks. When we reveal ourselves, they will have nowhere to run. The human fleet had been moving into position for days using quantum drives to approach Velterra Prime from dozens of different vectors. The aliens thought they were safe behind their massive defensive formations, but they had no idea that 200 human supercarriers were already surrounding them in a perfect three-dimensional sphere. Captain Kim Soo-young, commanding the carrier Business Fury, checked her ship's position relative to the alien fleet. Her vessel was positioned directly above the alien formation, while other human ships had taken positions below, to the sides, and at precise angles that would maximize the effectiveness of coordinated attacks. The human battle plan was unlike anything in galactic military history. Instead of focusing firepower on the strongest enemy ships, they would target command and control vessels, first destroying the aliens' ability to coordinate. Their response, once the alien fleet was blind and confused the humans, would systematically eliminate their remaining forces using superior tactics and technology. Commander Park Jin-woo reviewed the final intelligence reports about alien ship capabilities and defensive systems. Every alien vessel had been analyzed and cataloged. Human tactical computers had identified the optimal attack patterns for each ship type and calculated exactly how much firepower would be needed to overwhelm their defenses. The aliens had made a crucial mistake by gathering all their forces in one location. Their ships were designed to fight individually or in small groups, not as part of massive coordinated fleets. the complex sensor networks and communication systems needed to coordinate 3,000 ships created vulnerabilities that could be exploited by enemies who understood how to disrupt electronic warfare. Admiral Park So-jin opened a secure communication channel to all human ships throughout the fleet. "The time for hiding is over," she announced to her commanders. "We have studied our enemies for months and know their every weakness. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity will not be slaves to anyone." Initiate revelation protocol across the human fleet. Identical commands were executed simultaneously. 200 supercarriers and their escort vessels suddenly dropped their stealth fields at exactly the same moment. The effect was like watching stars suddenly appear in empty space as the massive human fleet materialized from nothing in perfect formation surrounding the alien forces. The psychological impact on the aliens was immediate and devastating. One moment they had been scanning empty space with their sensors, the next moment they found themselves completely surrounded by an enemy fleet that had somehow appeared without warning. The human ships formed a perfect sphere around the alien forces with no gaps or weaknesses in their formation. Captain Lee Sang-ho commanding the Tactical Coordination Center aboard Incheon S. Thunder watched the alien fleet reaction through advanced sensors. "The enemy formations are breaking apart," he reported calmly to Admiral Park. "Their command structure is collapsing as individual ships try to orient themselves toward multiple threats simultaneously." The sight that greeted the aliens was unlike anything in their military experience. Each human supercarrier was surrounded by clouds of smaller fighters, creating three-dimensional formations that moved with perfect precision. The human fleet operated like a single living organism, with each component supporting every other component in ways the aliens had never seen. Empress Terra felt her laughter die in her throat as she stared at the tactical displays showing human ships in every direction around her fleet. The humans had not just built a few experimental vessels, they had created an entire military force using technology that made traditional galactic warfare doctrine completely obsolete. "How is this possible?" she whispered to her tactical officers as she watched human ships maneuvering with impossible precision. "Our intelligence report said these humans were primitive barbarians with crude weapons and slow ships." "What am I looking at?" General Kexdal studied the sensor readings with growing horror. "Your Majesty, these human vessels are using some form of space-folding technology that allows them to appear and disappear at will. Their ship designs are completely unknown, featuring weapon systems and defensive capabilities that do not match any known galactic technology." The human ships were indeed revolutionary in their design. Instead of the massive, intimidating vessels favored by alien cultures, human ships were built for maximum tactical flexibility. They could change their weapon configurations during battle, adapt their defensive systems to counter different threats, and coordinate their movements with mathematical precision. Captain Kim Soo-young opened communication channels on all alien frequencies, allowing her calm voice to reach every enemy ship in the system. "This is the Human Defense Fleet," she announced with quiet authority. "Your Empress mocked our species and threatened our people. You now face the consequences of that decision. Surrender immediately, and your crews will be treated with honor." The aliens listened in stunned silence as this human woman offered them terms of surrender. The idea that humans could be in a position to dictate terms to the mighty Dominion Empire was so impossible that many alien commanders thought they were hallucinating. The humans were supposed to be helpless primitives, not the commanders of advanced military technology. Admiral Vex Nar aboard the Dominion Super Dreadnought Infinite Power tried to make sense of the tactical situation surrounding his fleet. "Impossible," he muttered as he studied sensor readings that showed human ships appearing and vanishing around his position. "These readings violate every known law of physics. How can ships that large move so quickly and coordinate so perfectly?" The answer was the collective intelligence network that linked every human ship to every other human ship through quantum communication systems. The aliens saw 200 separate vessels, but they were actually facing a single unified intelligence that could process information and coordinate responses faster than any biological mind could comprehend. Commander O. Min Young, leading fighter squadrons from the carrier Daegu-S Pride, prepared her pilots for the coming battle. "Remember your training," she told them over the communication network. The aliens fight as individuals seeking personal glory. We fight as one mind with one purpose. Their greatest strength becomes their greatest weakness when they cannot coordinate their responses. The human fighters were equipped with adaptive weapon systems that could change their configuration based on enemy defenses. When alien shields proved effective against energy weapons, the fighters switched to kinetic projectiles. When armor stopped kinetic attacks, they deployed exotic matter. The Battle of Velterra Prime began when Empress Velterra, driven by centuries of pride and absolute disbelief at what she was seeing, ordered her massive fleet to attack the surrounding human forces. Her voice echoed across thousands of alien communication channels as she screamed commands that would lead to the most one-sided space battle in recorded galactic history. Fire at will, she commanded her fleet admirals, destroy these pathetic humans and show the galaxy that no one challenges the Dominion. Empire and lives to tell about it. Use every weapon at your disposal and reduce their primitive ships to space dust. The alien response was immediate and overwhelming. 3,000 warships opened fire simultaneously, creating a light show that could be seen from neighboring star systems. Energy beams capable of melting asteroids lanced out in every direction. Plasma cannons that could vaporize small moons discharged their deadly cargo. Particle weapons that manipulated matter at the subatomic level sought human targets, but the human fleet moved like a school of fish in perfect coordination as each ship flowed around the alien attacks while maintaining their own firing solutions. The aliens had expected to face an enemy that would try to match their firepower with bigger weapons and thicker armor. Instead, they found themselves fighting opponents who simply refused to be where the alien weapons were aimed. Captain Lee Sang-ho, commanding the Tactical Coordination Center aboard Incheon Thunder, watched the battle unfold exactly as the human simulations had predicted. Enemy formation Alpha 7 is breaking apart, he reported in the same calm voice he might use to discuss the weather. Redirect fighter squadrons Bravo and Charlie to support the coordinated strike on their command vessel. The human battle doctrine was based on a simple but revolutionary concept. Instead of trying to build ships powerful enough to defeat alien vessels in direct combat, humanity had developed technology that made direct combat unnecessary. Human ships could appear anywhere, strike precisely at vulnerable targets, and disappear before alien weapons could lock onto them. Admiral Park So-jin coordinated the overall battle from her flagship, while individual ship commanders executed their assigned roles with mechanical precision. The human fleet shared sensor data, tactical analysis, and targeting information instantaneously across all vessels, creating a single unified intelligence that could predict and counter alien moves before they were even made. Commander Park Jin-woo led a coordinated strike against a Dominion super dreadnought that was trying to rally the scattered alien formations. His fighter squadron appeared from 3 different directions, simultaneously overwhelming the alien ship S-point defense systems and striking critical systems with surgical precision. The massive alien vessel exploded in a ball of fire that lit up half the battle space. The aliens had never faced enemies who could coordinate attacks with such mathematical precision. Their own combat doctrine emphasized individual ship commanders making independent decisions to gain personal glory. This created confusion and contradictory orders as different alien ships tried to execute conflicting battle plans. Captain Kim Soo-young aboard Business Fury executed a perfect example of human tactical superiority. Her ship appeared behind a formation of Vextar heavy cruisers, using quantum drives to fold space and bypass their defensive positions. Her fighters swarmed over the alien ships like angry insects, striking weapon systems and shield generators with exotic matter weapons that simply made their targets cease to exist. The Vex Tar commander tried to turn his ships to face this new threat, but human coordination networks had already predicted his response. Additional human ships appeared on his flanks and above his formation, creating a 3-dimensional attack that no single alien commander could counter. The entire Vextar formation was destroyed within minutes. What made the battle so one-sided was not just superior human technology, but superior human thinking. The aliens fought as individuals even when operating in large fleets. Each ship commander was trying to achieve personal success and gain Recognition from superior officers, this made them predictable and vulnerable to enemies who had abandoned individual glory in favor of collective effectiveness. Captain Yunji-ho, commanding Seoul S Thunder, demonstrated the power of adaptive technology when her ship encountered a group of Mordon crystal vessels that had configured their defenses specifically to counter human energy weapons. Her tactical computers instantly analyzed the alien countermeasures and reconfigured her weapons to use kinetic projectiles. Instead, the Mordon ships had been designed to absorb and redirect energy attacks, but they had no defense against solid matter traveling at significant fractions of light speed. The human kinetic weapons punched through crystal armor like bullets through paper, reducing the supposedly invincible Mordon vessels to glittering debris. Commander Oh Min-young led her fighter squadrons in a complex maneuver that would have been impossible without the collective intelligence network. Her 300 fighters coordinated their movements so precisely that they appeared to be parts of a single organism flowing around alien defensive fire and striking. With perfect timing, the alien point defense systems had been designed to counter individual fighters attacking in predictable patterns. They could not cope with coordinated swarms that moved like flocks of birds, sharing information and adapting their approach in real time. The human fighters overwhelmed alien defenses through sheer coordination rather than superior firepower. Admiral Vex Nar, commanding the Dominion Third Fleet, tried desperately to organize a counterattack against the human forces surrounding his position, but every time he issued orders to his ship commanders, the humans seemed to anticipate his moves and counter them before they could be executed. What the Admiral did not understand was that human intelligence systems were intercepting and analyzing every alien communication in real time. Human tactical computers could predict alien responses based on detailed psychological profiles of enemy commanders developed through months of careful observation. The battle became a masterpiece of tactical coordination as human ships appeared and disappeared throughout the alien formations, striking at command vessels, communication relays, and weapon systems with surgical precision. Each human attack was timed to support every other human attack, creating cascading failures throughout the alien fleet. Captain Lee Dae-ho aboard Gwangju S Pride coordinated strikes against alien supply vessels and support ships while the main battle raged around the larger combatants. Human doctrine recognized that destroying an enemy's ability to maintain and resupply their forces was just as important as destroying the combat vessels themselves. The aliens had brought massive fleets to Velterra Prime, but they had not prepared for extended combat. Their ships carried limited ammunition and spare parts, expecting the battle to be decided quickly through overwhelming firepower. As human attacks disrupted their supply lines, alien combat effectiveness began to degrade rapidly. Empress Velterra watched in growing horror as her supposedly invincible fleet was systematically dismantled by enemies she had dismissed as primitive barbarians. Her admirals shouted contradictory orders while human forces continued their methodical destruction of Dominion military power. "This is impossible," she screamed at her tactical officers as another group of her most powerful ships exploded under coordinated human attacks. "Our ships are individually superior to anything these humans possess. How are they defeating us so easily?" General Kexdal studied the battle displays with the expression of someone watching a natural disaster unfold. "Your Majesty, the humans are not fighting individual ships. They are fighting our entire fleet as if it were a single target. Their coordination is perfect, and their tactics are unlike anything in our military databases." The general was correct, but he still did not fully understand what he was observing. The human fleet was not just well coordinated, it was operating as a single distributed intelligence that could process information and make decisions faster than any biological mind could comprehend. As alien ships continued to explode throughout the formation, panic began to spread among the surviving crews. Some alien commanders abandoned their positions and tried to flee, while others clustered together, seeking safety in numbers. Both responses played directly into human tactical plans. Human ships that had been waiting in reserve moved to intercept fleeing alien vessels, while concentrated alien formations became perfect targets for coordinated strikes. The aliens had no good options because they had never trained to fight enemies who could appear Anywhere without warning Captain Park, so Young coordinated the final phase of the battle as human forces began systematically destroying the remaining alien resistance. Scattered enemy ships that had lost communication with their command structure were eliminated by small groups of human fighters, while larger alien formations were surrounded and destroyed by multiple supercarriers. Working together, the adaptive technology that humanity had secretly developed proved devastating in actual combat conditions when alien shields adapted to. The silence that followed the Battle of Velterra Prime was unlike anything the galaxy had ever experienced. For 4 hours, the space around the Dominion throne world had been filled with the thunder of weapons and the screams of dying ships. Now only the quiet hum of human patrol craft could be heard as they moved among the wreckage of what had once been the most powerful fleet in Galactic history. Admiral Park So-Jin stood on the bridge of her flagship Sol S Thunder, looking out at the scattered remains of alien vessels that floated like broken toys in the void. Her tactical displays showed the final count of the battle. Over 3,000 alien warships had been reduced to fewer than 200 crippled survivors. The human fleet had lost exactly 0 vessels. The psychological impact of such a complete victory was beyond calculation. Every alien species in the galaxy would soon learn that the mighty Dominion Empire had been utterly destroyed by humans in a single afternoon. The reputation for invincibility that had kept dozens of species in line for thousands of years had been shattered forever. Admiral Park opened communication channels to the surviving alien forces, and her calm voice reached every damaged ship in the system. "This is Admiral Park of the Human Defense Fleet. Your military resistance has ended. All surviving vessels will power down their weapons and prepare to receive our terms for surrender." Empress Velterra sat in the ruins of her command center aboard the crippled Eternal Dominion. Her flagship had been reduced to a hollow shell barely capable of maintaining life support. Her 6 arms trembled with rage and humiliation as she stared at the communication screen showing the human admiral who had once stood humbly before her throne. The woman who appeared on her screen was the same Admiral Park who had requested peaceful coexistence just days before. But now she spoke with the authority of absolute victory. Her uniform was still clean and pressed, showing that the devastating battle had required so little effort from the human forces that their commanders had not even been inconvenienced. "Your Majesty," Admiral Park said with formal politeness, "humanity offers generous terms for surrender. Your empire will maintain internal autonomy over domestic affairs, but your military forces will be limited and monitored by human observers. All slave species currently under your control will be granted immediate freedom to choose their own governments." The terms were indeed generous considering the completeness of the human victory. Most conquering species would have demanded total submission and the enslavement of their defeated enemies. But humanity seemed genuinely interested in establishing a stable and peaceful galactic order rather than simply replacing one empire with another. Your aggressive expansion into neutral territories will cease permanently. Admiral Park continued. Any attempt to rebuild military forces beyond the levels we establish will result in immediate intervention. All existing territorial disputes will be resolved through mediation rather than military force. These terms are not negotiable. Empress Velterra wanted to refuse, wanted to rage against these impossible demands from creatures she had considered barely worthy of slavery. But the evidence of human military superiority floated all around her. In the form of destroyed alien ships, her empire had been built on the threat of overwhelming force, and now she faced enemies who possessed overwhelming force beyond anything she had ever imagined. The other alien species that had laughed at humanity during the Galactic Council meeting now found themselves facing a completely changed political situation. The Vextar Mordan and Thelpoi ambassadors who had joined in mocking human diplomatic efforts were already sending urgent messages, requesting immediate meetings with human representatives. Captain Kim Soo-young established the first human embassy on Velterra Prime within hours of the battle ending. The building rose from the planet's surface, using advanced construction technology that assembled the structure from basic materials in a matter of hours. The embassy design incorporated both human and alien architectural elements, showing respect for local culture while demonstrating human technological capabilities. The embassy served multiple purposes beyond simple diplomacy. It was a communication center that could coordinate human activities across dozens of star systems. It contained advanced medical facilities that offered treatment using human technology to any species that requested it. It housed cultural exchange programs designed to promote understanding between humans and aliens. Within days, news of the Battle of Velterra Prime had spread across the entire galaxy, carried by survivors of the defeated fleet and transmitted through communication networks that spanned hundreds of star systems. The reaction was immediate and dramatic as every major government reconsidered their relationships with both humanity and the former. Dominion Empire Dr. Yang Haijin arrived at Velterra Prime aboard a specially equipped research vessel to begin establishing scientific cooperation programs with alien species. She had spent decades developing the technology that had made human victory possible, but her real passion was using that technology to benefit all intelligent life in the galaxy we never wanted. Conquest, she explained to assembled alien scientists during her first public presentation. Human civilization has always believed that cooperation produces better results than competition. We developed superior military technology only because we were threatened with slavery and extinction. Now that we have proven our strength, perhaps we can work together to advance all our civilizations. The scientific exchange programs proved popular with alien researchers who had been stifled by the rigid hierarchy of the Dominion Empire. Human technology offered solutions to problems that had puzzled alien scientists for centuries, while alien knowledge provided insights that accelerated human research in unexpected directions. Commander Park Jinwoo established human peacekeeping forces throughout former Dominion territory to maintain order during the transition to new governments. These forces were small, but their presence served as a reminder that human military power could be deployed anywhere in the galaxy with minimal warning. The peacekeeping mission was carefully designed to avoid the appearance of occupation. Human forces provided security and technical assistance but did not interfere with local governance except to prevent conflicts between different species. Local populations were encouraged to develop their own democratic institutions with human advisors available to provide guidance when requested. Captain Yoon Ji-ho worked with former Dominion military officers to establish new defense forces for the independent worlds that had been freed from imperial control. These new military organizations were limited in size and capability, but sufficient to maintain internal security and protect against pirates or raiders. The transition from empire to independent worlds was remarkably smooth thanks to careful human planning. Most species that had been conquered by the Dominion Empire were eager to govern themselves and welcomed human assistance in establishing free institutions. The few groups that attempted to maintain imperial control found themselves facing immediate intervention by human forces. Admiral Cho Min-soo returned to Luna Base to oversee the expansion of human military capabilities based on lessons learned during the battle. Human shipyards began producing new classes of vessels designed for peacekeeping and exploration rather than pure combat. The era of human isolation was over, and Earth needed ships capable of maintaining order across galactic distances. The human fleet that had destroyed the Dominion Empire was already obsolete, as new designs incorporated improvements suggested by combat experience. Future human ships would be even more advanced, featuring better coordination systems and more effective adaptive technologies. The galaxy would never again see the kind of military revolution that had shocked alien civilizations. Captain Lee Dae-ho established the first human trade commission to regulate commerce between Earth and the dozens of species that suddenly wanted access to human technology. The commission ensured that trade relationships were fair and beneficial to all parties while preventing the transfer of military technology to potentially hostile groups. Trade with humanity quickly became essential for many alien species. Human manufacturing techniques could produce goods more efficiently than traditional alien methods, while human agricultural technology could feed populations that had struggled with food shortages under imperial rule. The economic transformation was as dramatic as the military revolution. Human concepts of free market competition and cooperative development replaced the rigid extraction economy that had characterized the Dominion Empire worlds that had been forced to export raw materials for imperial benefit could now develop their own industries and trade relationships within. Months of the battle, former Dominion territory had been transformed from a collection of oppressed colonies into a confederation of independent worlds. Cooperating under human guidance, the transformation demonstrated that human intentions were genuinely peaceful and focused on mutual benefit rather than exploitation. Commander O. Min Young led human diplomatic missions to other major galactic powers, explaining the new situation and offering cooperation agreements. The reputation of human military power preceded these missions, making negotiations much easier than they might have been under different circumstances. Species that had previously ignored human requests for peaceful contact now competed to establish favorable relationships with Earth.